Warning: the following content may contain elements that are not suitable for all audiences. Viewer discretion is advised.
Right.
But that's pretty much it. Are you good to go, or did you?
Yeah, no, I'm set, bro.
Set. All right, cool. All right, well, I guess we should just get started then. All right, well, whenever you're ready. I just want to, before we get started, of course, I'd love to introduce you, but I'd like to give the floor to everybody to introduce yourself however you want. If I had to describe how I'd introduce you, I would say this guy is definitely the comic relief. This guy made things funny when things were difficult. And I remember specific events that I was really frustrated about. But if you hadn't cracked the joke at the right time, I think I would have snapped. So without further ado, the funniest guy I know, please introduce yourself.
I appreciate that. My name's Cesar, or everybody knows me as Chaidez, right? Military background. I'm a clown. That's what I do. I just like you mentioned. I think growing up, like I wasn't always that way. I was pretty I was like a crabby dude.
Really?
Not until my later years when I was like getting ready to enlist. Once I enlisted, I kind of learned patience in boot camp because I'm like, it's frustrating stuff, but they try to make you frustrated, and so kind of learned it there. And then you can almost say like I just don't care like about anything. They make you do like some stupid stuff, and it's just like, well, we're gonna do it regardless, so you might as well try to have some fun with it.
So that's really interesting. I thought that was something you just kind of had in you, your whole life, that you just didn't take it too seriously. So at one point you were more
growing up, like I was like the grumpiest dude. Like I swear, bro, like when I was young, right? Like 8, 9 years old, I used to get like patches of hair missing on my fucking head, dude.
Really?
But my mom's like, well, what's wrong with this guy? So it like took us to doctor, and she asked them, and they're like, oh, that's like, I guess it's pretty common amongst people who have like stress issues or like a bad temper or whatever. And that's definitely what it was. I was like that. So I don't know. As I grew up, I kind of matured a little bit, learned some patience, and that's how I ended up this way.
You said you learned patience. Was there a specific memory you have that you were like, you know what, like I need to calm down? Or
no, like I said, like mostly I was getting ready for boot camp, and they tell you, you are like I mentioned to you before. I watched countless videos going into it, and I kind of, if you watch enough videos, you know what's coming, right? And they say it in all the videos. They're trying to break you down so they can build you back up. So the idea is that you cannot force me to do something that I know is coming. Like you can't. You just can't.
So then, did you go watch videos? Because that's what I did. Is I prepared myself by watching a ton of videos. But even with the videos, there's no way you can fully prepare for what happens.
Right.
So like in those scenarios where you're like I didn't prepare for this. Like, how did you deal with that?
And that's one of the things too. Like I always got in trouble for laughing. But luckily, like the guy who was the scribe, they would always be like, "Hey, scribe, put this guy down for two extra hours of fire watch." And that was my homie, so he would just be like, "I got you today."
For those that don't know what a scribe is, can you describe to people what that role is in boot camp?
Yeah. So the scribe, they generally choose the person with the best handwriting. I think that's what it is. That's how you get that job. And then all this guy really does is like he takes essentially notes for the drill instructor. So if somebody does something, messes up, cool, like remind me to get this guy later or whatever. Or he'll draw out the fire watch schedules and things like that. But you know.
One thing that I was told, because I know I had a buddy of mine that went, and he talked to me before I went, because he had come back already, and he basically said, make friends with the scribe. Whatever you do, make friends with the scribe, be friends with the guide, and you'll be okay. I was like, all right, cool. I was like, I didn't really know why he said, I was like, I asked him like, oh, well, why do he's like, just be friends with him.
Right. Because to somebody like going into it, you don't fully understand.
Yeah. Like I didn't even know what a scribe was.
Right.
He's like, be friends with the scribe. I was like, why? He's like, just be friends with him. I was like, okay. That
was like one of my best friends in boot camp. And even now, the funny thing is that this guy went on to become a drill instructor. So now he's a senior right now. You know, I see pictures of him, you know, in his uniform, and he's, you know, the moto pics and stuff.
Yeah.
And I'm thinking back in my head, I'm like, bro, you know,
that guy saved me.
Yeah.
He saved me hours of sleep.
It happened all the time, bro, all the time.
With did you ever get? Well, you said you got in trouble for laughing, and did he save you from Firewatch, or did they make him? Because I remember at one point, no matter how good of a friends you were with the scribe, if you pissed off that drill instructor specifically that day, he wanted to make sure that you were on it. Was there ever a time where that happened?
Yeah, it happened a couple times. I mean, it happened a lot. Like I had no bearing. I would just laugh at everything, you know, or like because it doesn't have to be something funny, bro. You know, like you look across and somebody's like making a funny face or something, and something you would not laugh at normally, just because you can't laugh at this time. It's like, it was really funny to me. I don't know. And so, but yeah, there was times where, you know, I was put down for 2 hours of Firewatch, and they made sure that I did those 2 hours. But then there was other times where he's just like, he put me down for one or none, you know.
Yeah.
And it's like,
what is the funniest story you have from boot camp that you can remember?
I think after initial drill, right? Like I don't know if everybody goes through the same process, but like I could hear the whole company like getting destroyed. Yeah. You know? So in my head I'm thinking like, they told us like, yeah, you guys are garbage. Like you came in last place. Like, you know, you embarrassed us and this and that. So now we're destroying the place. But then I hear everybody else doing the exact same thing. I'm like, I was like, all right, well, you know, so, and that's where it kind of clicked. Yeah. You know? And so they have us taking our you know, the racks into the head and all these kind of things. And then I distinctly remember we're running back to the, you know, the back of the squad bay. And I'm pretty sure the drill instructor like slammed the bottle of laundry detergent, right? And so I'm running and I try to jump over this puddle, and as I'm in the air, he's like 0, you know. So everybody stops, but I'm in the middle. I'm like midair, and I come down and I land on the fucking laundry detergent, and I slid, and I just like wiped out. And everybody was trying not to laugh, and I was laughing, you know. Yeah. But that was so funny. I couldn't hold it.
So you were trying to leap across, kind of to like make it in time, because you heard the countdown, right? I'm sure, or he just said 0 out of nowhere. Yeah.
So like we were. He gave us an order. We're in the head. He's like, all right, go back to the back of the squad base. So now we're running there, and I'm just getting my cardio in. You know, I'm running over there, and yeah, like once I guess somebody did something he didn't like, he called 0, and then I couldn't stop. You know, and then even when I landed, I just wiped out. You know, and I'm like, dang.
One of the funniest things too is when there are times where, you know how drill instructors aren't supposed to show emotions. Yeah. I remember specifically, I can't remember what exactly that one recruit said, but he said something really dumb, and my kill hat, who's normally very good at not showing any emotion, like I just saw him like put the brim of his cover over his face.
That's what our kill hat was like. He'd always do that. I think he was really bad at that too, you know, because I've seen him do it like a lot of times. A lot of times.
It's just like I don't know what it is about. Even when I'll watch sometimes some of the videos of how the guys are getting trained now, and I'll see how they talk. When we were recruits, bro, like we sound really dumb. Like
for sure.
I don't know what it. Maybe it's just the way that we have to talk, and none of us know how to talk like that. And so when we all sound like, you know, like infants trying to learn how to speak. And so hearing hearing some of the recruits talk, I'm like, bro, I would, if I was a drill instructor, I would be laughing all the time.
Oh yeah, it's funny. Is not even just the way they talk, but like the recruit walk. that is hilarious.
Because why don't you describe like what exactly that means for people who don't know what that means?
So like when you're marching, right? It's pretty simple concept. You know, if your left foot moves, your right arm swings.
Yeah,
and it's like you would normally do, but people overthink it.
Yep.
And then all of a sudden you're swinging the same side. You know. And
so you look like a robot. Like,
it just looks really dumb. Yeah, it looks really dumb.
When speaking of initial drill, we won initial and final drill for our platoon. Now that you mention it, I think we also got messed up when we had won it. I think that's what happened. The way we knew that we won it was, I think we just were the ones that got to blouse like our boots.
Oh, right.
When everybody, when everybody else, we saw everybody else still had like the recruit fold.
Right,
like you just fold them, fold the blousings. For anybody who doesn't know what a blouse is, it's essentially a blousing is essentially where you wear a boot band like around your ankle, and that's what, and you roll your uniform, your camis into it so that it doesn't so it's essentially neat and tucked. And new recruits all they just kind of fold it up, kind of like how you'd fold a sleeve, I guess, if you're trying to move it up. You just kind of fold it in a couple of times and just do it neatly. And if you pass initial drill, well, then obviously you get to go on to second phase, technically, right? Because that's the end of first phase is initial drill. And then you get to blouse your boots, which means you start looking a little more like a Marine as you go from phase to phase. And at first you start with the shirt all buttoned up, right? Like you guys started like all buttoned up. And second phase, you get to unbutton it. But if you fail, did you guys have to do that? Where if you fail,
they
like
made you put it back,
you have to keep it buttoned? Because that's what they made the other guys do.
I don't remember, to be honest with you, but I know that our platoon was not very good at drill, so probably what happened. Yeah,
and so like that's how we knew that we won, right? Was because we're like, well, we're the only ones that don't look like that.
But they still messed you guys
up. Yeah, I'm pretty sure they did. I can't remember it too much because most of first phase is kind of a blur to me because most of first phase was like I was just trying to like survive, bro. Like I wasn't really taking it in. I think some people, I don't know if you had people who thought it was like really funny when they first, I don't know if you remember Black Friday.
Oh yeah.
Black Friday, at first I thought was kind of fun. Like when it first started, like I was telling Alvarez about it. I was like, yeah, you know, I remember this. Like I saw videos of that. I'm like, yeah, this is all right. This is what I expected. And then it doesn't stop, right? Like it just keeps going. And then people who were laughing by the end of the night,
like crying.
They were like crying, bro. Like it was the craziest thing because everybody thinks it's a game until you realize like it sets in that this is going to be your life every day for the next 3 months. Like you don't get a weekend off, you don't get a day off. It's just the entire, at least all of the first phase was just like constant. You go that way, you go that way, you go that way.
Yeah, I think the most annoying part to me was when you're learning all the rules inside of the chow hall.
Yeah.
And like the whole first week,
really,
you don't eat because the whole time it's just like somebody's hey, he's like, hey, stop what you're doing. Like this guy doesn't have a 90-degree angle or a 45-degree angle. And it's like, all right. So then, all right, eat. And then not even 5 seconds later, hey, this guy doesn't have his palm over, his hand on his knee. It's like, cool. And then it's just like everybody keeps making the same mistakes over and over again. And I want to say like in the first week, I lost like 15 pounds because I didn't eat anything,
I didn't really experience too much of that because I was in the middle. So I started eating before everybody sat down. So because I was in the middle, were you in like the beginning of the line? So for us, they didn't really start messing with us until everybody sat down. So I was in the middle, so I had enough time to at least, eat something, like have a scoop of something, right? Before we got messed up by anybody, but it was, yeah, I took full advantage of the fact that I still had like maybe 2 minutes before everybody else sat down. Once I sat down, so I just started stuffing my face, dude. Like,
there was times where like, cause they used to switch it up and like go like different orders and stuff like that. So if I ever sat first, I would definitely like take advantage of it, you know. And I definitely like, you know, they have their rules like, oh, you can only get 2 peanut butter packets or, you know, a slice of bread or something like that. And I would not listen to that whatsoever. Just be like, I remember I got caught one time. I had like 6 slices of bread. And I would just ball it up and like, you know.
How did you like? Because isn't the bread like near the pastries, like near the end of the line?
I thought it was by like the drinks or something. I really don't remember, but I remember grabbing a bunch of bread.
Because we had I don't know if this was probably the case with you where we had the drill instructors at the end of the line waiting for you to just grab.
Yeah, he wants you to get a cookie.
Yeah, go ahead, grab a cookie, bro. Like, just wait for it. But nobody obviously did. Well, at least not that I know of, because we would have gotten messed up if somebody did.
We had a guy who got it every day.
Yeah,
every day.
He didn't learn.
It was so funny. It was so funny. It got to the point where like it was a joke. Like other seniors would come by and hey, his name was Calvillo. Hey, Calvillo, you get some dessert today? He's like, no, sir. Come on, man. Let's get you some come on, let me give you some ice cream, man. He's like, no, sir. And you're like, no, don't worry, I got you. He'd bring him ice cream and make him eat it there. It was great.
But like, that's crazy to me, because we all were well aware that if we got any pastry, you were going to throw it up anyway. So like, what drove this kid? Like, what?
He was just the funniest. I don't know. This dude didn't care about anything. It was really funny.
Really? So you just didn't care? Well, that's what it was like?
Yeah. I mean, they would like, you know, he lived on the quarterdeck, but like, whatever, he didn't really care. At some point, like, you can only do so much before your body starts to give out, you know, like
that's what
I can only push so much before at some point I just can't do any more push-ups, you know.
Well, yeah, but then there were people who were, I remember we had a drop come into our platoon, who he basically, I think he was the guide. I think that's what it was. He was the guide in that platoon, and he, you know, guides get messed up every day.
Oh yeah.
Well, he ended up like slowly getting a stress fracture from the constant wear, you know, and he got dropped. So I wonder if for me, like, my main thing was I'm trying to do everything I can to not get dropped like that. Just like most people there. Right. But my goal was, what if I go unnoticed, then I'll spend less time on the quarterdeck. Right. So that's what I was trying to do, was trying to survive. Right. Where some people were like, yeah, whatever, like, do whatever they want.
Yeah, he was definitely one of those guys for sure. Yeah, I remember I had kind of the same experience where it's like the whole time you're just thinking like, I don't care if I'm hurt, I'm not going to medical. I don't care what it is, I'm not going. And I remember because they tell you not to touch your face, and you always touch your face. You don't realize how much you touch your face until you can't touch your face.
Yeah,
and I remember one time I got pink eye, and I was like, well, I'm not going to medical.
Yeah.
But like, I had pink eye, you know, like you have to go to medical. Luckily, somebody else, like one of my buddies there, was like, he had just gotten eye drops, you know.
Oh.
So he's like, oh, you know, you can have some of my eye drops. And so I didn't have to go to medical. So I went, you know,
lucky
whole time.
Because the worst thing I started to develop pink eye, but I caught it in time. So I got up, you know how, I don't know if you went to the bathroom every night, like in the middle of the night, because that's like routine.
Oh, like
every night I had to go. I woke up like at midnight and I had to go, because, you know, they made us chug like a canteen before we went to sleep. So every night I woke up at like around midnight, same time, had to go use that. So they were telling us, because we had just gotten to Camp Pendleton, just 2 hours north of San Diego. And so they were telling us, like, we just got here, like, it's a lot dirtier here. Don't touch your face, because we're going to be going into grass week, you know, all that stuff. Bro, I touched my face, dude. Like, I was getting ready to go to sleep, and I was wiping my eyes, and then I I fell asleep, and I woke up at midnight. Same thing as always, and I went to the bathroom, and I noticed when I woke up, I felt like a crust in my eye, like I was like I had to, like open it. I was like, oh, that was weird. So I go to the bathroom, and I look, and I see like the yellow crust starting to form around my eye. I'm like, oh, bro, come on, like no, like I can't afford to get dropped now.
Right.
So I start wiping my eyes with the water. I start like washing my eyes, trying to get it as cleaned up as possible. And I was like, well, that's all I can do for now.
Did that work?
It did. I woke up the next day, it was clear. Completely went away. I caught it right before it started getting infected, or as it was starting to get infected.
Right.
So that saved me. But there was one guy that woke up, and I don't know if it was during grass week, but he woke up and his eye was swollen shut. Like his entire eye.
Dang.
Was just closed.
Wonder what that guy was doing. Like put his whole hand inside of his eye or something? Like
I don't know, man. But you know what happened is when we got tornadoed, you know how the pillows get exchanged.
Right.
I don't know. Someone's been farting in their pillow, bro, and then someone got their pillow, dude.
Dude, in one of those tornadoes, it might have been on Black Friday actually. There was, they make you toss your Foot Locker, empty it out, and then he comes by, drill instructor comes by, kicks everything in the middle, whatever, and then he just tells you like, all right, go pick some stuff up or whatever, get what you can, and then obviously there's a countdown. I just went and grabbed the biggest handful of stuff I can get, and like I couldn't even close it. I got so much stuff, and the guy next to me, I don't know what he got. I probably had all of his stuff. And so then the rest of the time I was just chilling. I had so much stuff. And somebody would be like, "Oh, I don't have this." Well, here, you can have this, dude. I just got to get rid of stuff at this point.
The worst thing that happened for me, and like this, the worst part about boot camp it was more of the mental stuff, like the anxiety of when we got all of our stuff thrown all over the place. I had 2 left boots. I had like somebody else's pants. Like I was like, bro, what? Like, come on, man. Like it wouldn't fit around my waist. Like it was falling when we were running.
And nobody wants to say anything.
No one's going to say
really, bro? You're going to walk around here with 2 right boots?
Yeah.
Is that what you want to do? That's crazy.
That's what I'm saying is like, that was the worst thing for me is like, bro, like I don't want to get injured or, mess something up by
with 2 left
boots. like, what are we going to do? And so at night, like I made it my mission to figure out where my stuff was, dude. And so I told the guys around me, I'm like, hey, we need to get all our stuff back. So why don't we all stay up, after everybody goes to sleep, and then try to figure out what where everybody's stuff was. And we got most of our stuff right. At least my boots.
Right. And, your camis.
And my camis, I was able to get the right size. But, God, bro, like, to not know if I was going to be able to do that and think, like, I'm going to have to go all 3 months with the 2 left boots and the wrong size pants. That's always ridiculous. Falling, bro. Like, it was just like, why? Why is that necessary? Why do I need to do that? But anyway, those are the horror stories for me, was just having the wrong uniform, bro. Like,
yeah, it's hard to imagine that, like, you even have to tell somebody, like, yo, we should look through our stuff, because like you have 2 left boots. I mean, somebody has 2 right boots.
Yeah.
It's like you never consider like, man, maybe I should find my other boot.
Yeah.
Like, it's crazy to me.
Yeah, I mean, luckily I had the, how you have your 2 sets of boots, your winter and your summer boots. I had to, until we could figure out, sort everything out. Like I had to use the wrong boots that we were basically.
Did they ever notice?
I never noticed. So I mean, they look similar. The rat boots, the clown boots, they all look the same, man. Like even if whether they're the winter boots or the jungle boots, like the difference between the jungle boots and the winter ones are just that the jungle boots have like a little hole on the side. Yep, for the air to pass through. That's pretty much it. So they just didn't notice until we did the exchange. But it was ridiculous. Like it was stupid. Like
I think I got in trouble for that one time too.
Oh yeah,
for wearing my jungle boots, like because those are like the inspection ones, right? Like
yeah.
Sure. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm pretty sure I got in trouble for that. I guess somebody's more aware.
Yeah. So, all right, that's a pretty big chapter for my life, anyways. Boot camp. But like before that, what was life like for you? I know you have. I visited your family and kind of got to see. I realized that your whole family was like that. I was going to ask you that. Like, is that like I wondered where you got your sense of humor from? But your family's like that too. What I notice is like everybody's joking around. Everything's a joke. Like, and I love that. I think that that's great. It's different than my family. I mean, my brother's like that, right? That's how we all got that sense of humor. Is like my oldest brother's like that. But your entire family's like that. Like,
bunch of clowns.
Yeah, everybody's just joking around, making fun of people. Like, is that something that you had to get accustomed to? Because you said that you were more serious. Like, did that bother you growing up? Like, how was that?
No, not really. I think like in that sort of setting, or because like every Saturday, like growing up, my grandpa used to give everybody an allowance, right? And even like my aunts and uncles who were like adults at this time, So like every Saturday, the whole family would get together. They'd come to I live with my grandparents, right? And they would go there, and we would all get together. And then like, in the 90s, $5 goes a long way for a kid.
Yeah.
So we would all go to the store or whatever, and everybody would spend their allowance pretty much on like junk food or whatever. Yeah. And then like my grandma would cook for everybody, and it's like kind of like the same thing. Like, we're all having like a family meal, kind of. Not like a traditional sense, but like, just standing around the kitchen and everybody's messing around and stuff. So it's always been that way.
So then, it didn't really bother you growing up. Like, it wasn't like it got on your nerves and then people were like, hey, you need to relax or anything like that? No.
I was just like I just had like a short fuse is what it was.
I've always had a short fuse. I relate to that, but I don't think I really grew out of. Well, maybe I'm starting to grow out of it, but I still to this day there are things where like if you say something to me, like you might not know I'm super upset about it, but like I feel like man, this guy,
Yeah, there's certain, like even now, like there's things that I don't how can I say it, like I don't take too kindly, like like there's certain things that will cause me to snap as well, like if you I dislike when people try to put me on blast. You're going to get a negative response every time,
I find it interesting that because I was going to say, like, I don't think I've ever seen you legitimately angry. Like, I've seen you annoyed and like, whatever, like when it comes to the Marine Corps, especially, there are going to be people who annoy you. Like,
oh, for sure.
People who get in your grill or say things that are just uncalled for. Like, you don't need to scream at me or whatever. Like, right. I've seen you annoyed about stuff like that, but it's always funny. Like it's in a comical way where you're not like, where it's not like everyone gets silent, because there's those guys, right? Like there are those guys who get really mad and then don't care that they look like lunatics in front of everybody, like just screaming, and everybody's just like, what's wrong with this guy? Like you weren't like that. Like if you I've seen where like I can see where when someone annoys you, you're like, all right, dude, like I'm done. Like I've seen you do that where like, all right, whatever. Like, oh, I don't need to talk to you. You make some sort of like comment about him, like, I don't care about you anyway or whatever. And then you just continue on to something else. But like you're able to do that, right? Like calmly. Like you don't yell. So like that's something that I notice you're very tame with. Is that something that, like you said, you had to, like, what was it that got you to be a little, what is it that you practiced that made you a little more calm in your response when you were angry?
I think just like, as I got older, I kind of became more self-aware, and so like, I know that if we're going to have this exchange, like I'm a hothead, and if I say something and then you say something I don't like, then it's going to escalate, so I'd rather just like, whatever I'll let you think you want, but at the end of the day, like you said, I really don't care what you say or what you think or any of that sort of stuff.
That's fair. I think then your mentality is more like at the end of the day, like you don't really define how I see myself anyway, kind of thing. Right. Okay. Yeah. I think that's the difference there for me, is I guess like I have to defend like my image, I guess, is that was my biggest problem, is when somebody said something, like I felt like I had to, like I had to challenge what they were saying about me, but it's like, no, you
it's not going to change it.
It's not going to change it. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Okay. Well, that's something I can learn from you, because I
think like in my last relationship, I kind of had that issue where I was like, I'm one of those people. I'm too like laid back, too nonchalant,
Mm.
you know, and it's like almost to an extreme, you know, where like you can't faze me, you know, and my ex-girlfriend, she was like the exact opposite, you know, and she was like too worried about what people thought about her.
Mm.
So like if she ever said anything to me or whatever, like I have this habit, like I laugh, you know, like you try to yell at me or something, like I think it's funny, you know,
Yeah.
even though it's not,
Yeah.
you know, and she would like get really butthurt about that stuff. And then I noticed it, like, oh man, she's butthurt, but like that's funny to me too, you know, like dang, you're really worked up about like nothing.
Yeah.
You know,
it's well, here's the thing I've noticed too is there's the two extremes. Like there's the being so laid back that you sometimes you can let things flow by that probably should be addressed. Like maybe that creates like a thing of, oh, well, I don't know if I can tell you now because you're just gonna not take it seriously or whatever. And then there's where it's like I care too much. Like I feel like I have to change what your perspective of what you think. That's also not going to fix anything because at the end of the day, people are going to have their opinion of you anyway. Because whatever people interpret about what you say and how you act is entirely in how they view you. So whatever, like if you say anything, if they believe they saw something in you that's like whatever they think of you, then that's what they're going to think of you. Either way, that's the hard part for me. So I guess like you're on the other end where it's like, what have you done to, because you said that that was something that you had to work on, right? Was like the where you're almost too laid back.
Yeah. Well, honestly, I don't think I've changed very much. I think I'm still the same way, but I think like the girl I'm with now is more similar to my personality, you know.
How do you think that's, do you feel like that has made things, is that easier for you or has that created new challenges?
There's definitely challenges in that as well. Cause like sometimes if I'm worked up about something, it's like, she's very nonchalant too. So you're like, yo, like this is bothering me. Like, let's do something about it. Well, I don't want to talk about it. It's like, oh, all right. You know, but I'm trying not to get worked up, but like I'm worked up.
Yeah. I'm curious because I haven't ever, for me, for example, like I've only ever dated people that were like polar opposite of me. So I've been dating someone similar to me. I always said that like I just can't get along with someone who's like me because like I'm a hothead. If I date somebody who's also a hothead, we're gonna box, dude. Like, and I'm not gonna lose, dude. Like, you know what I mean? Like no. In all seriousness, though, like I have that like, you know, just don't push my buttons, and you know we'll be all right. Like, and somehow, some way, if they find, you know, if they're like that too, well, they're gonna be for me, if I have another confrontational person, it's gonna be difficult for me to deal with that because I'm confrontational, you know. So like, I'm just curious how that works for you. It's like, do you think it's better this way now, where it's like someone that's more like you?
Yeah, I think so. I think mostly because I can kind of, like I said, like I'm pretty nonchalant, but like if it's something that's like bothering me, like I don't have an issue bringing it up, you know, especially like we've been together long enough to where like I don't, you know, I'm comfortable enough to tell her anything, you know. So yeah, it's just a matter of like, you know, however she decides to respond, and it could be an issue. Yeah.
But has it helped you at all to, like I guess self-regulate when you are like upset like that and realize that, you know, she's kind of like more chilled out about it? Does that make you rethink like, you know, maybe it's not that big of a deal, or does it make you like, how's that change your interaction?
Yeah, I think you're onto something there where sometimes, you know, at that moment you might have one opinion on it, and then later on you go back and you say like, oh man, you know what, maybe I was overreacting, you know, she might have been right. And so like, you know, sometimes the best thing to do is like to take a step back, you know, and then you go back and you say like, all right, you know, you come back the next day and say, all right, you know what, this is still bothering me, like let's talk about it. Or maybe it wasn't that big of a deal after all, like I'm fine, you know. So that's one of the things I like to do.
And so moving a little bit forward, what I know we kind of were a little bit all over the place, but I want to kind of know what is it that made you want to become a Marine? That's what I've asked, Cesar, I've asked Alvarez. Like, I'm just curious because everybody's story is different. Like, no matter how many times I've asked that question throughout the years that I've known you guys, everybody has a different response.
I've heard some weird ones.
Yeah. Like, I thought that we were going to be more alike, where it's like, similar things bring us to the Marine Corps, and I thought that ultimately that's why people come back, right? Or why they keep coming is because the same motivations are there, but every single response has been different. So for you, like, what made you want to like enlist? Yeah,
so like for me, I want to say I'm the first one in my family that's ever done any sort of like military service. So so it's not like it was a something I grew up with knowing. But when I got on pretty late. I was 22.
Yeah. Yeah, that's by Marine Corps standards, it's like,
yeah, I was old. Like a fucking like, hey, you should retire, man. That's crazy. But no, yeah, so I got in when I was 22, and most of that is because I did try out college for a little bit, and I've never really been like well, actually, let me start that over. When I was younger, I was really good at school.
Yeah. And
then somewhere, so I don't know what happened in high school, I kind of just like lost interest, And I started to realize like it's not for me,
Right.
So, but like, everybody tells you have to take that route. You go to college,
sure,
whatever. So, I tried it out, and I didn't like that either. So I was like, at this time I'm like 19, maybe 20, and that's when I decided like, yeah, I want to do something different, and I wanted to do something like challenge myself, And so, I remember one of my older cousins had talked about doing it, but he never pulled the trigger. He never joined. So that kind of, I got a light bulb, and I was like, all right, cool. Like, let me look into it. So I looked into it, and at the time I'm like this, 130-pound dude, like this scrawny guy. And I'm like, nah, dude, like if I go, I have to be ready. So I took a couple of years and I was working out, I was running, I put on a bunch of weight, and then I was like, all right, once I felt comfortable, I was like, all right, I think I'm good. And that's when I pulled the trigger,
How did you know that the Marine Corps had reserves? Like, why did you choose reserves over active duty?
Initially I didn't. So when I enlisted, I was going to be in the wing in aviation. I was going to be well, my job would have been aviation electronics. Like, I don't know what exactly that would have entailed. But like, I don't remember what happened. Something was going on to where like, I was like, I had second thoughts about it. And I'm like, man, you know what? Like, I don't know if I still want to do it. And so I sat down, I talked to my recruiter, and then they told me about other options. They're like, well, if you don't want to do it, like, you don't have to be active duty. Because like you said, I didn't even know there was a reserve component.
Yeah, me neither. Only reason I figured it out was because when I did finally think about like, well, what options do they have? Because I went on their website and I saw that it had on the tab, it said reserves. I was like, oh, that changes things. Because I didn't want to do active duty because I'm like, the way that I am is I need to be doing multiple things for me to stay happy. If I'm doing only one thing and I'm stuck to that way for years, I'm going to be really unhappy because I like to bounce around. I knew that, and I knew enough of that to know that I needed to find a way to be able to do multiple things while still in the military. Once I saw the website and I saw that it says reserves and you could, whatever, and I read it, I was like, oh, you could submit for information. The next day I got a call from my recruiter because I put my information in on the website, and then they get the closest recruiting center to you. So for you, they basically said, well, there are other options.
Right.
And then how did it go from there?
So I think I remember better now. So I remember that at the time, like I have a nephew, right? And that guy, he's kind of like, I treat him like my son, And so I was always looking out for the guy, and like, his situation's a little rocky, right? So I thought to myself, I'm like, I want this guy, I want him to come live with me, and so that was kind of the whole thing. So once they offered me or sold me on the idea that I can still go and do my Marine Corps obligations and be home at the same time, I was like, that's a good idea. So I still went through.
Was there a particular? I know you knew that school wasn't for you, but what particularly drew you to the Marine Corps other than the job? Was it like you just wanted that, like you thought it'd be cool to do that specific, aviation type job, or?
I didn't even know what I was getting myself into. Like I just went because I was like, all right, I want to do something different. I want to challenge myself, and I knew that like to be a Marine, you have to be like in pretty good shape, and that's what I worked for. And so I thought to myself, like, I want to do something that will make sure that I stay active. Because I couldn't see myself doing like a desk job or something like that. Like,
right.
Even now, like it's too boring.
Yeah, I mean that's fair enough. You still run, which has been, I think, a pretty big part of your fitness. From what I can remember, you were always talking about running, and I stole some of your running shoes even. Like, you remember the green ones? Yeah, you let me borrow. You're like, just give them back whenever you're done. And I was like, all right, bet. And then I'm still not done with them, bro.
I forgot about that.
I saw them in my trunk the other day when I was cleaning the trunk. I was like, oh, these are. I should probably. I don't know if he wants these.
Don't worry about it. No, yeah, yeah. I think I got into running probably like 2017, 2018. I was like, I think I was like on some sad boy stuff at that time, bro. Honestly,
Oh, yeah?
I think I was just going through a breakup and I was like, I was drinking and stuff like that. And I was like, nah, I need to, because it doesn't really do anything for you.
Right.
Just if anything, it makes it worse. So
Yeah.
I'm thinking like, I need to find a more positive outlet.
Yeah.
And so I started running and it kind of becomes like therapeutic,
Right.
Like, I don't know if you ever heard anybody say that, but you run and you kind of just, if you've got something going on, or at least that's the way I feel. If I've got something going on, something bothering me, I can go run and I will get lost in my thoughts. And I'll even forget I'm running, and you just run for miles. And then it's like, just became second nature. So like I stuck with it. I took a year off, kind of got fat. And then I'm like, all right, like I need to get back on it,
I solved a lot of my problems while I was running, because like you said, for me, it was also therapeutic. And when I stopped running was when I started kind of getting depressed and gaining weight. And I started having knee problems because when you get big quick, your body recognizes that the load is a lot heavier now, and I started getting my knee started to swell. But yeah, running it's therapeutic because like it's just you. Like there's no distraction of like other people talking to you. There's no like work. You have to get work done.
Right.
All you're doing like at that moment in time, the only thing that matters is just what's in front of you. So there's nothing to really. There's no. Have you seen those? We talked a little bit about this when I went over to your place the other day. Like, those tanks where you're sitting in the water and all that stuff.
Oh yeah, yeah.
It's kind of like that for running. It's where you kind of drift off into your own world where you go on autopilot. And for me, it was like I just think about things I want to get done and why I'm doing them. You know what I mean? Like
yeah.
It's like a whole evaluation of why you exist. That's how it was for me.
I think when you're running, you just have so much like clarity.
Yeah.
Now, I don't know exactly where that comes from. I know that after you run, your body releases this chemical, right? I think is it serotonin or
it's oh god,
it's some sort of endorphin.
And it's dopamine.
Right, and it's some like sense of accomplishment. You're like, even though like throughout the run you're like miserable. Sometimes like today I ran and it's like, I don't know, might have been 90 degrees or something, and it was miserable. I had to stop a couple times. I'm like, dang, I was not I was not hydrated. For sure.
Oh, and you can, as you get better at running, that's one of the things you notice, you pick up on, like, yeah, I wasn't hydrated enough for this run. Like,
for sure.
More cramping. You just start to feel slow, like sluggish. That's how I would describe it. When I'm not hydrated, I feel like I have to dig a lot harder to get myself moving.
So like the way that my marathon prep is built around my schedule, I have to do my long runs on Monday because that's the only day I have off. Right. So I have to get my long runs done today, like every Monday.
Yeah.
But I still work on Sunday nights.
Right.
Or all day Sunday. So yesterday I went to work, and the way that I know that I'm going to be hydrated is I take a gallon of water with me every day.
Yep.
And I have to finish that gallon before I leave. And so then yesterday when I left, like I hadn't even opened the gallon. Like it was still sealed. And I'm like, that sucks. Like, because I have, I'm supposed to run 12 and a half miles today. And I'm like, so then when I went today, I stepped outside and I started stretching. I'm like, dang, it's hot. I'm like, I already know what's going to happen.
Yeah.
And probably like 7 miles in, I was miserable. And I like sat down on a rock in the shade. I'm like, dude, this is crazy.
Yeah.
Because I took two, like, I have a vest.
Yeah.
Like
the weighted vest?
No, not a weighted vest, just like a running vest. I don't know. It carries two pouches of water bottles, whatever.
Okay.
But they're like 6 ounces each or something. It's nothing major.
Right.
So I take cold water with me, but like 7 miles in, that's like an hour later, and it's 90 degrees outside. So this water is like boiling hot.
Right.
I'm like, oh, this sucks. I can't drink this.
Yeah.
And so like it was miserable.
Yeah.
I was like, dang. 7 miles in, I'm like, well, what am I doing? So I was like, all right, I just finished up, but it was not.
How do you take care of yourself long term? Because you've been running for as long as I've known you, like long distance runner. I've always been a shorter distance. Like when I tried to run longer distances was when I started feeling like more pains, like more knee pains, more. So I was like, I'll keep them shorter. And when I kept them shorter, I was able to recover from pains. So what is it that you do? What's your practice to keep yourself healthy when you do long distance running?
Yeah, there's a bunch of things like you as a runner, right? Or I think it's human nature. You always say like, all right, I want to build on the last run, right? So I want to run better. I want to run faster, right? But that's not exactly the most efficient way to get things done, So you have to, or at least what I do, right, is your baseline, right? So you have to know, all right, my best 5K is at this pace, my best 10K is at this pace or whatever. And so on easy days, right, you want to run at a certain pace, or pace that's not going to kill you. You should be able to hold a conversation, And so they call that zone 2 training. So I bought a heart rate monitor, and I don't run above 155 beats per minute. It's pretty slow. It's almost like when I first started, I was walking almost, and so, and that keeps me grounded, because otherwise without it, you think like, I can go faster, and then you just plateau at some point, so there's that, you're making your easy runs easy, and then I've watched a bunch of YouTube videos and make sure that I'm running efficiently, because a lot of times you're running and you don't even realize that you're a heel striker. And if you come down on your heel, it's like essentially every time that your heel strikes, you are stopping your momentum and starting up again. And it's not efficient, and it's horrible for your knees, and that's how you get shin splints as well. So.
And how do you control your, are you actively thinking about your running form? Is that something that you've had to adjust? Is that something that just comes to you naturally?
Some people, I've seen videos of people saying that you should have somebody record you so that you know where your deficiencies are or whatever. I run on big streets, so like I'm always looking in the mirror. Like I'll look in the windows and stuff. Sometimes people are looking back at me. I'm like, that's kind of awkward.
You make eye contact with people.
It's like, that's kind of awkward.
Just some dude as you're going by, just making direct eye contact.
Right. Yeah. So I mean, that's one of the things I do. But like, but then again, you're running. If I'm looking this way, over at my own reflection, like I don't see the front angle. I don't know that I'm doing it correctly. But I just know that I used to have knee issues, right? For a while when like on the workup for the deployment.
Yeah.
You know, and it's because I was running in Lejeune. It's pretty hilly. You know? So, you know, I was running some inclines and stuff like that, and I was heel striking, and it just compounded, and I thought I had they call it IT band syndrome, right? And so I was having like a lot of knee issues, and I had to get a knee brace and stuff like that. And I considered like taking time off, and then I just didn't. But that's when I started to look more into it, and then ever since then, I kind of corrected my form, and I haven't had issues since then.
Speaking of the deployment, you're also the only one of the only people that I know from the unit that deployed, because the only deployment that I knew of was from when I first checked into the unit. I don't know if you remember it, but it was the deployment to Africa, where everybody went to Africa. I had just checked in and everyone was gone.
I think when I checked in, they had just gotten back.
Right. So then you checked in like not too long after I did. Right. And so they were in Africa when I checked in, and they came back not too long after. And they were the only guys that I knew then, obviously, that went to a deployment, but they checked out pretty quickly after. Like everybody was towards the end of their enlistment. So you're really the only guy, one of the few guys that I grew up in the Marine Corps with that deployed. What was that like? It wasn't like, obviously we're in peacetime, so it wasn't like a combat deployment, but right. What was it? What you expected? Was it better? Was it worse?
It was a good time, honestly. And one of the things is like, you know, like you mentioned, right? Whenever somebody asks like, well, did you deploy? They've got this misconception that you went and you fought a war or something. Right. It's like, well, we're not doing that right now, bro. Yeah. you know? So, I mean, but they did have an operation going on. Sure. You know, and so you're just one small piece of this operation that's going on. But right. The issue is that we went during COVID. So we're in the middle of nowhere, right? And we're not, and I think at the time, Jordan like didn't have COVID. There was like almost no cases there. So they're like, they didn't want us to leave the base because like probably like a month or two in, like it started spreading like wildfire, like all over. And so we were pretty much locked down in the middle of nowhere. Like there was like no stores or nothing like that. You had to drive to the nearest city. We'd go like maybe once a week, once every 2 weeks or something. But like as far as like everyday life there, it's just like having like a regular job, you know, except I'm like work 5 feet away from where I sleep. Right. You know, and so I go to work and then, you know, start at 6. I'm done by, you know, 06 and I'm done by, you know, 4 p.m. And then the rest of the day I just go eat and I work out. And that was it every single day.
And who did you get to, like, and obviously when you go to these support missions and support operations, most of the time you're training with, alongside, or training other forces. Who did you train alongside with?
We didn't really have anybody to like work with, right? So they had they called them the JAF. I think they're like the Jordanian Armed Forces. I don't know if they have like a army or whatever. They're, you know, like the same way we're set up. Sure. Branches, but I know that a lot of the infantry guys ended up coming on our base. Like they would train them. Okay. With handling weapons and stuff like that. But we eventually ran a radio course for the infantry guys. You know. Okay. You think like we're showing these guys how to work radios, and you want to give these guys the benefit of the doubt, right? Because at the end of the day, like we're all grown men. Yep. You know, and you hear all these things about like how these guys in the infantry are like pretty dumb, or you know they you know have that kind of reputation. So we go into it with like an open mind, like no, these guys are cool, you know. Yeah. And then we're like teaching them how to set up OEs, antennas, and I turn around and they're just like throwing rocks at each other. And I'm like, wow, these guys really are that dumb, dude. I was like, man, I tried to.
So what did you guys do to deal with that? Was there like, did you have to have like an interpreter or, you know, help you like calm them down? Or is that our infantry?
No, those were our guys. Yeah. These are our guys. And you just turn around. I'm like, whoa, I was like, all right, well, I'm not going to get in the middle of that. Like,
Yeah.
you can, give each other a concussion or whatever you want to do. Like,
so there was like nobody supervising them. Like there wasn't anybody you'd go to. Like, hey, come on.
I think we just had Staff Sergeant Thompson with us.
Okay.
He just
knock it off.
Yeah, but like these guys they're just like that, man. They just try to destroy everything. It's just really funny, man. Like they don't care about anything. It's really funny.
Yeah. I mean, I heard stories of trying to train the infantry to do radio, but I had heard different stories. I'd heard like some of them are pretty smart.
Oh yeah.
And
that too.
And those are the guys that like end up being the leadership in the infantry. Is the ones that like don't just succumb to the culture of like destroy everything.
I think they I think it's just in their nature to like do things like that, right? But like at the same time, like one of the guys that I distinctly remember this guy being like one of the ones that was like throwing rocks at people, right? When we were teaching him stuff, like he genuinely wanted to learn, right? And he worked with like the Morty guys,
Yeah.
So he was like a forward observer, so you have to know a lot of math, and you have to be pretty accurate with that kind of stuff.
Right.
And so he knew all his stuff. He was really good. He had a pretty good idea of how to work a radio to begin with. So like he was pretty smart, but like still wanted to mess around and stuff too,
Right. And well, that's one of the, you really do get all kinds in the Marine Corps. Like I've met all, even in our field, right? Like telecommunications, like that's something that like we have the really smart but socially awkward ones. There are the ones that are kind of like in the middle, like they could figure stuff out, but they're more socially easy to approach or have conversations with. And then there are some, even in our section that like you wonder how they got that. Like, did you like accidentally you picked the right answers? Like, how did you get in this field, man? Like, you have those guys too. But the one thing that I do think that is unlike anything else that you could be like, no matter what they do, like that guy's a Marine. There's like a basic standard that the majority of us have, and it's not necessarily in how we look, but in like how we hold ourselves, like in when we're in public or whatever, like how we carry ourselves. There's a certain confidence that the majority of Marines that I've met have. You don't have to be smart. Like you just have to be confident. And I've noticed that confidence is what did the Marine Corps leave that in you? Or is that something that you have already had? Like what was the impression the Marine Corps had on you that's long lasting?
Yeah, I think they definitely instill confidence in you. That's one of the things they tell you, like, they want to make sure that every Marine is a leader, right? So they always tell you, like, if you go out in the civilian, and you're in a group of people, naturally they're going to gravitate towards you because of the confidence. You have to make people believe in you. So if you believe in everything that you say, naturally people are going to follow you. So that's definitely something that stuck with me. But I think mostly it's I'm not like a very like vocal leader, more of a like hands-on, like,
just do your job and
right.
Yeah, like not worry about the noise. Like,
yeah, for sure.
I've gotten that sense from you as like you knew your job. Like when people because they would ask me, I'd have to figure out like who's good at what at one point. Like I had to like assess everybody. Right. And one of the things that like, I would hear the guys, the leadership be like, I don't hear too much from Chaidez. Like how is he and, with radios and how does he do that? I was like, I don't have to tell him anything. Like, like he just does it. And, it's not like a thing I don't have to babysit him, but it's cause you have that maturity. You were older when you got into the Marine Corps. So like you didn't have to be babysat and told what to do every second of the day. But I think that the strong suit was that people felt comfortable coming up to you. That was what I noticed was your strong suit. If I had to describe it, like when I was asked, like, what is his strong suit as like a leader? Because everyone's looking for leadership potential, right? Like, is this guy going to be the next squad leader? Is this guy going to be the next platoon sergeant or whatever? So in the short time that I got to do that, like, do that leadership role, I kind of fixated more on everybody. I tried to notice more about people, and what I noticed about you was that you had the maturity, but also people felt comfortable coming up to you, like, "Hey, how do you do this?" And that's a good thing. Like, I was like, we need that, because it's great if you're smart and you know all this stuff like the back of your hand, but if you're not approachable, like, people don't feel comfortable coming up to you and asking you how to do something, that knowledge is useless, because it's not going to get used. Right. They're just going to avoid you, and then they'd rather not be uncomfortable talking to you and know nothing and try to figure it out that way than to try to start a conversation and you're a jerk or whatever. Then they're not going to want to pick your brain. But people want to pick your brain. That's what made you a strong leader. So if anything, I felt that was your superpower, was that you were super approachable and you were knowledgeable. So it's not like you were going to feed them something that wasn't like right. You know, you were just going to tell them trash, you know, like.
Yeah. I remember when I checked in, like, they kept moving me around.
Yeah.
You know? So first I'm like a 22, and then they're like, all right, we'll go with SATCOM. And I go there, and they're just like giving me the runaround. They didn't really teach me too much. I was there for like a year, and I didn't really learn anything. I was like, all right, cool. Now I'll go to radio. And so then when I went to radio, you know, that's where, you know, I got with you guys, with Woods, and,
yep.
you know, and so I started to like legitimately learn things, because at the time you check in and everybody says like, oh, well, you just got up the schoolhouse, man, you should know this. And it's like, they don't really teach you there.
No, that's not a real place to learn.
So I'm like, all right, well, you know, I didn't want to be one of those guys who didn't know anything. Right. Even though I was, because everybody is.
Everybody was, yeah.
So, all right, cool. Like, let's take this serious. Like we can mess around too, but like at the end of the day, like, take some notes, you know, watch what people are doing, pick their brains or whatever. And I remember the squad leader at the time was I remember seeing him during ops, like chilling in the office, like sleeping under the desk. I'm like, what the hell, you know? And then if you ask him something, he would make you feel like an idiot. Like,
yeah,
oh, you don't know that, like this,
right?
So I'm thinking like, dang, once I figure this out, like, I don't ever want to be that guy,
right?
You know.
And it's a good thing, because that's how I kind of, when I got into my leadership roles, I was like, what do I hate about like the leaders that exist now? Like, what is it that I would not want to be like? And then I try to become that. That's kind of how I got it too. Is like, I definitely don't want to be a leader that I reach out to, like, because you're already kind of vulnerable reaching out when you're like, oh, I need somebody's help. And so that takes energy for you to go and be like, hey, I need your help. Can you help me with this? And then for you to shoot back and be like, oh, you're an idiot for not knowing that.
Right.
I'm never going to ask you for help ever again. That's basically what happens is like, I'm not going to ask you for help anymore. So I didn't want to be like that. And that's why I really, you know, I really respected the way that you carried yourself, because that was how you did was if somebody asked you a question, nobody felt dumb for asking you a question.
Right.
So
I'm sure the question they asked me, I had to have asked somebody else too.
Yeah.
You know, but it's just like some people aren't as open to answering those questions for whatever reason. Like at the end of the day, if I can help make you a better operator or Marine in general, that makes us better as a unit.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So for me to just like try to, I guess, hog all the knowledge or like just make you feel dumb, like it doesn't make sense to even do that, you know?
Yeah. With that being said, our hour is almost completely up. We kind of ran through that pretty quick. So before we get off though, I'd like to kind of give you any last minute, like what is so far, like what is the road that you're on right now? Because obviously you're retired. You got out of the Marine Corps recently too. So what has been your plan moving forward? Have you found something that will replace the Marine Corps? Have you been okay without it? Like, how has that been for you?
Yeah, I don't. I think in one of your last episodes when Cesar was on here, right? I think you mentioned how, you know, when you left, you were looking for something to fill that void, like you missed it.
Yeah.
Right. And I didn't miss it. Like, granted, like I miss the guys, you know, but we can always get together or
sure,
whatever the case is. So I don't really miss it too much. I just know that like I knew early on that it wasn't what I wanted to do. So I knew from the jump, like, yeah, the way things are going, like I'm not going to re-up.
Right.
You know?
you had already made that decision long before you had to
sure.
cross that road. That makes sense.
Probably like a year or two in, I'm like, yeah. I don't know about you, but like whenever drill was coming up, bro, like the night before, I would feel like almost sad for some reason. Be like, oh dang, dude, like a drag, and I'm like,
yeah,
but why? You know, like
because you knew already that's something you didn't want to do.
Right.
Like for me, I didn't feel when I went to drill. It's not that I felt sad. What I felt was frustrated because I knew how things were probably going to go, and I didn't want them to go that way. Like I wanted to change things. I wanted to do things differently. And that was mostly, I was like frustrated that I knew what I was going to have to deal with, but I still wanted to try. And so that kept me going, you know, but for you, that makes sense. Like if you already knew you didn't want to be there, well, yeah, it went a little different for you where you're like, I'm perfectly okay with making peace with it. And, you do your part and that's it. But, well, I'm glad to hear that, cause it sucks to miss it. And, and it sucks to like, be like, man, now what? Right. So what's been the latest that you've been up to?
I tried a trade recently, and I did it for about 6 months, and I absolutely hated it. It was like same thing. Like every day, like my schedule was worse than the one I already had. I went there because I'm thinking like in the unions, you make good money. You go, you make good money. You have like a good schedule. You're off on the weekends and this and that. And it's like I actually took a massive pay cut to try it out. Like $9 an hour pay cut. And then on top of that, I went. Schedule's worse than the one I already had, and then you're just doing all the grunt work. You're not actually learning anything,
right?
And the guy who was my foreman, guy was trying to skip out on paying me the correct amount. So I'm like, yeah, dude, I'm not gonna stick around for this for 4 years.
Yeah,
I'm like, nah, that's not for me, dude.
Right.
You can get over on a lot of people, but I'm not gonna stick around for that. So. I quit. It was like the greatest feeling in the world. It was like I went to work on a Friday and I knew that I was not going to come back ever again. And it's just I cannot describe that feeling. It was so great. And then, but yeah. So then I'm still doing the same stuff. Just working at the restaurant. But somewhere down the line, I want to try out real estate. That's always been something I want to try.
It's for the people that figure it out. They're making a lot of money,
right?
But it isn't. I have noticed that it does take a certain level of commitment. Those people are all the time, constantly talking to people, constantly making connections, constantly doing all that. So if that's something that drives you, man, I'd say
I don't know necessarily if being a real estate agent, right? But just in general, like real estate investor, or
okay,
rental properties, or property manager, those kind of things.
That's definitely, you can manage a lot of properties and make a lot of money for that. Yeah, I think you could do it.
That's the end goal. Because I want to not work. That'd be dope if I could just wake up and be like, all right, cool, I'm gonna go run today.
Yeah,
just do that every day.
Yeah, there are people who are even younger than us already living that lifestyle. I'm like, you cheated, bro.
Yeah,
put in a cheat code.
That little kid who does toy reviews.
Yeah.
What?
Yeah,
dude, that guy makes $10 million a year, bro.
You're gonna have to go talk to him, bro.
Hey, fork it over.
Yeah,
give me a cut.
Give me a lunch money, bro. Give me millions, though. Yeah, man. But I appreciate you coming on to the show. I mean, it's always a long drive for just about everybody, so I hope it wasn't that bad.
Nah, it wasn't.
But
I appreciate it.
We'll have you on again sometime soon. Like I said, hopefully we can have the rest of the guys over, and we'll get one big episode of everybody together, and we'll probably be yelling at each other most of the time, but it'll be pretty entertaining. So, but until then, appreciate it, and always good to have you on.
Yeah, thanks for having me, man.
Thanks, man.